The package manager that I've been talking about since the beginning of this YouTube channel is finally done. Should I do one of those like stereotypical YouTuber intros? I'm Dactyl, and this is the Dactyl YouTube channel. No, that sounds stupid. That sounds ridiculous. Why do people do that? Now, you might be wondering what package manager I'm talking about if you're new to the channel at all. So for those who don't know, I'm talking about something called pkgit. This is the package manager that I've been working on since last year. Even before I even started this YouTube channel, I was working on this package manager. And the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds when they hear about someone making a package manager is why? What's different about this package manager than the rest? So allow me to indulge a little bit with the explanation of what pkgit actually is. The number one reason why I made pkgit is because I never saw the reason why you had to have a third-party remote repository to download your packages from, rather than getting them directly from the person who made them. It seemed like the only reason to have this centralized repository was for convenience. But I still don't like the idea of having third-party repositories that are basically man-in-the-middles just to get something as simple as a quick little program. So after a while, this idea gradually grew into something bigger than I could handle, and I needed to make this thing a reality. In the beginning, it was just a bash script, and obviously that bash script absolutely sucked. It was the worst thing ever. I don't remember even how many features it had, but it was like nothing. Eventually, I rewrote pkgit in nim, which is actually the point where I mentioned in my first ever YouTube video. I mentioned at the very end of that video that I have a package manager, and I'm rewriting that package manager from nim into C++. The Dactyl YouTube channel is born, and so too is my urge to make everything as minimal and portable as possible. Thus, I take pkgit from being written in now C++ into the absolute pinnacle of portability and minimalism, C. This is the part where I have to thank a few people, because I did not develop pkgit on my own. A lot of the code that's in pkgit right now is mostly mine, but it is built upon the code of mostly one, but a few people. First and foremost, I need to thank Frosty. Frosty is a reoccurring character on this YouTube channel. You'll probably see him on my live streams occasionally. Frosty is the person who single-handedly took a C++ code base, that being pkgit at the time, and completely rewrote the entire thing in C. And because of that, I'm forever grateful for his massive contribution to pkgit. He basically made pkgit. Other people I need to thank are the people in the pkgit muck. If you don't know what a muck is, it's basically a multi-user chat on xmpp. So in the list of other people who have added significant or really any contribution to pkgit, I want to thank CodeFox for making the man pages for pkgit. You can do man pkgit if you install it. This is a wonderful little cheat sheet thing, and I'm just so happy to see something so universal made for pkgit. Really makes the program feel important, you know? Special thanks to Cyber for giving me a lot of good ideas on how to write C code, and also giving me a couple patches for really far back-end things that are kind of hard to explain in a YouTube video. Thank you to Indium for creating an editor config file, which you can see right here. This is a great way to enforce the guidelines that I have listed in the contributing.markdown file. This is the same guy who was also currently trying to make a TLDR page for pkgit, so you don't have to do man pkgit with all of this overwhelming information. You can get a very concise TLDR of pkgit. That one is still in the works though, and I'm not really sure if it's going to happen because it's been rejected because pkgit is too young. But yeah, those are all the people that I really wanted to thank for pkgit, because without all those people, it would have not been possible. So thank you again to everyone who helped me, and let's finally get into actually using pkgit. Alright, I have completely uninstalled pkgit. It's no longer installed on my computer. So with that being said, how do you compile and install pkgit? Because without installing it, you're not able to use it, right? So in the README, in the About section of the pkgit repository, I will put this link in the description, you have the compile pkgit step. You can use make, which is probably what you're going to want to do for the first time. But hey, if you already have pkgit installed, you have the opportunity to use one of its features to pkgit build. We're going to do make. So let's git clone the wonderful pkgit repository, and it is now in my home folder. Awesome. Run make to compile pkgit. That was simple enough. We now have pkgit right there. And just to make sure that it works, we can run pkgit like so, /pkgit. And it's telling us that we don't have a configuration file, and that to generate one, you can go to the root directory of the pkgit source. This is basically where we are now, and run make defconfig. We can do this in a couple different ways. It even says this in the README. If you do a regular make defconfig, it's going to put that config file into config/pkgit, your home folder, basically. If you do this with root, say do as or sudo, it's going to put that in etc pkgit, as explained right here. So if you want to install packages in a root directory or a privileged directory of any kind, use do as make defconfig or sudo, whichever tool you have available to you. Just run make defconfig as root. In my case, I want to install pkgit and make its configuration file in the user's home folder. So I'm going to do a regular make defconfig. Now if I run pkgit, it doesn't work again. See, I forgot to do /pkgit because we have not installed it yet. We can see I'm currently on pkgit version 1.1.2. This is the newest version. But hey, there we go. We have pkgit working. Now to install pkgit, I'm kind of doing this backwards, but you can do make install, or you can do make install with a custom prefix. In my case, I want to do a custom prefix. Otherwise, you can do make install with some kind of root privileges, whether that be like literally as root, or make install with sudo, which I do not have, or with do as. That's if you want to install pkgit into a normal root directory. In my case though, we're going to do prefix equals ~/.local. And there we go. We've installed pkgit in local bin, and we've also installed the pkgit man page. This is probably not going to work because the man pages need to be installed elsewhere, but pkgit will work as long as this local bin path is in your path. And we can determine that by doing echo $path in all caps. And you can see I have a couple of different places that I have in my path, including, of course, home, deck, local bin. This is the one that you need to have in your path for this prefix to work. And since I've already installed pkgit, I can now run pkgit without doing the / to run the executable. Now that we have pkgit installed, and it's not giving us any errors about the config file, we can cd out of pkgit and then just remove the entire thing. We don't need pkgit anymore. It's basically nothing. If we go into the config of pkgit, we can see one file called init.lua, and this gives us a lot of different information. I'm not going to read all of this out because it is very long, but I do think that it's a good read for everyone who has literally no idea what pkgit is or how to use it, because all of this gives you all of the information that you need in order to do this by yourself. Okay, so I've just now deleted everything inside of my current configuration. I have a custom configuration that I'm going to copy into this pkgit directory. cd into pkgit, look at that, and voila, we have my own custom configuration of pkgit. I'll take you on a little tour of this and explain what's going on. So first of all, you see this repos.lua thing. This is actually a thing that pkgit added for convenience. So every time that you add a repo, it will put the absolute bare minimum configuration of that repo inside of this repos.lua. Let's move on from that. It's pretty self-explanatory what that's doing. In the init.lua though, this is very different. Obviously it has the home variable and prefix using home, and the install directories and repositories and build systems, but I mean, both of these are just requiring other files. This gets me into my favorite part about configuring something with Lua, which is that you can just include things into different files and then make them into like little modules that you plug in together like little puzzle pieces. So let's go into the repos.init, which is repos, the directory, and then init.lua. We can see I have a bunch of default set configurations for 3 packages, PipeMixer, LuaJIT, and Fetchit, and then I have a ton of packages with their own custom configuration in their own file. And then this whole table is being returned that way in the init.lua. Repositories is equal to that table. So Let's go into the Boomer one, because I like the Boomer one. I have the Boomer repository set as its own table, and this table is being returned into repos init.lua. And this has exactly the same kind of syntax as a normal repository. We have the build function, the install function, and also the uninstall function, as well as a quiet target that does exactly the same, but again, into a log file. So why don't we install Boomer real quick? pkgit-i Boomer. Oh, look at that, it's already installed. Well, good thing we have a force flag. Sometimes it'll do this. I'm not really sure why. If anyone understands the problem here, for some reason Git just like fails to clone sometimes and you have to do it again. We can see we're doing the fetching boomer and then init.lua in repositories boomer dependencies. We're saying that's not a table, but then we're doing the build. That's good because that means that it works. Giving the same warnings for pre-install and post-install, but overall, the whole thing worked. And it was all according to my custom configuration of boomer. And now we can do this. I am coding now. Now that we're done with that, I want to show off the build systems table that I've done. Again, this is returning a table, and then it's assigning a make file to another table. We're requiring builds.make. Here's builds.make. This is exactly the same thing that I showed you as a default configuration for make. So this is good. It's just set into its own file so that it's really, really easy to read and really easy to append to. So I can also do the same thing for makefile.am. Now we have two different files associated with the exact same table, and you don't have to write it twice. In general, this is kind of the best way that I think you can do a configuration to pkgit is by doing it in multiple different files. That way everything is easier to read, it's modular, and it's way cleaner, and I think more fun to use. But that's the entire thing of configuring pkgit out of the way. Now let's go into actually using pkgit. There is a man page for pkgit, but we're just going to go off of the basic help page, which I have so carefully designed. The subcommand flags are the flags that you would run that actually do something. Like add will add a repo. This is a command. Build will build a package. This is also a command, and so on. The modifier flags are the ones that add to those subcommand flags with some kind of modification to how they work. In the case of quiet, this is actually the thing that's calling the quiet target of build systems, and it also makes pkgit shut up about the warnings, which is really nice if you just want to get something installed quickly. Force is the modifier flag that actually tells the thing, hey, even if you have this thing installed, just install it anyway. But let's go down the list from the top. Add. This is pretty self-explanatory. Pkgit-a. This will add any URL to your repos.lua, as we've shown here, where repos.lua has pkgit. And this works by just taking a URL, and then at the end of that URL, it will take the very last thing after the slash, and it will use that as the name for the package. So in this case, because this URL ends in pkgit, this means that we're adding a repo called pkgit, which is associated directly with this URL. If you wanted to change that, obviously all you'd have to do is go into your configuration file and change this to whatever name you want. Now you might notice that this is a different syntax than most repos that I have installed, like PipeMixer, LuaJIT. All of these are just variable names rather than brackets and quotes. The reason for this is actually very simple. When you're defining these variables in Lua and then passing them into pkgit, these variables are already read as strings, but there are packages that have names with special characters in them. One of those being the minus sign, or the hyphen, or the dash, whatever you want to call it. So if I did like tux-mirror, right, and then I set this to a table, you're seeing right here, this minus sign is a different color than the tux and mirror. This is because that character is used for subtraction in Lua, and Lua doesn't care if there's a space or where that minus sign is being used. It's always going to be used as notation for a subtraction. So the best way to fix this problem is by wrapping it in brackets and quotes, and thus we have tux-mirror, which doesn't actually exist, but this is exactly how you would make a package with special characters in it. With that said, let's go on to the next command, build. This one is one of my favorites. I have prepared here a C project with a makefile. Let's just remove the binary in here. That way we just have the source code and the makefile. By having the ability to auto-detect the build system based on a file, you can do a lot of things with pkgit. Not only is this a package manager, but you can also just compile projects by auto-detecting the build system. So instead of doing make, like the normal way, you could do pkgit-b, and this will successfully compile the project, albeit with some warnings because I programmed it badly. But you can see here I do have the actual binary compiled on my system. And this will actually do something very fun if you're in a directory that has a bldit.lua in it. In this case, we're going to go into the pkgit one. We have a bldit.lua. Let's make clean on this. That way we have no objects or binary to see. And then we can do pkgit-b again, and it used, I don't know if you noticed this, it used the bldit.lua to compile pkgit. My favorite way of describing this is a meta build system. You're basically consolidating all build systems into one and then using that everywhere. This can also be pretty useful if you want to install packages locally, but we'll get into that in a second. The next command on the list is declare. So you have declarative package managers like Nix and GUIX and stuff, and basically how those work is you put the packages into a configuration file along with their, configuration, and then you just run a single command and it installs all of them for you and also configures all of them for you. This can kind of be done with pkgit. It's a bit hacky, but it does work. The declare command will install all the packages that you have in your repositories. And as you might remember, there are a couple of functions that I haven't really shown you much. The pre-install and post-install functions. These are all run in order. So pre-install is run before install, which is run before post-install. All of these functions are run in order from top to bottom. So pre-install, install, post-install. And you can do whatever you want with these functions. And in this case, for a declarative package manager, you might want to do something with the post install that allows you to configure this thing instantly. Now, the world is your oyster with this one because you can do anything that Lua allows you to do as long as you are returning success or failure with 0 or any other number. So for example, right, you could do a global variable up here that basically has your entire configuration in a string. And you could do a multi-line string and then put whatever configuration in here that you want. And then after that, you can go back into the post install and just do os.execute echo and then your configuration and then pipe that into a file. So it would be like .config/boomer in this case. This is how you would do some kind of declarative package management. It's a bit inline satanic, but this is like about as hands-on as you can get with a package manager without directly doing everything yourself. So that was the declarative install function. Now we have the search command. This one will look into your configuration file, and for all the repos that are in there, it will try to find a match. So let's do pkgit s, and let's look for fetch it. There it is. It's in there. If it prints the name of the package, we're good. Fetch also finds fetch it. So if you're looking for something that has fetch in the name, but you don't really know what it's called exactly, you can just type in search fetch and then it will give you the name. You can also just run pkgit-s without any arguments and it'll just print out everything inside of your repositories. Now, this is actually very similar, but not exactly the same as the list command. We're going to jump around a little bit now. The list command is not printing every single package in your repos, but rather telling you all the packages that you have installed. So in this case, we have cowsay, OpenSSH, beaker, and so on. Now, if you want to search for a package that you have installed, then you would have to do some piping into grep and then fetch. Look at that, I have fetch it. But pkgit-l is primarily just for telling you what packages you have installed. Next on the list is, we're going to go back to here, install. This is the command. This is the one that, as you can probably guess, installs packages. You can do pkgit-i or pkgit-install, boomer, again, like I did before. But you can also apply a couple of different flags to it. You can do Q for quiet, and then you can also do force. So now we have pkgit queef boomer. And this will quietly force install boomer the second time. I still have no idea why it does this. And look at that. It quietly told me it was fetching, building, and then installing boomer, and then it successfully did so. And I can prove that by using boomer and showing you boomer. There we go. It works. And then, as you might have guessed, pkgit-r will do exactly the opposite of install. It will uninstall or remove a package. So let's do the verbose version. Well, that was not very verbose, was it? But look at that. It removed boomer. And I can prove it to you because it's not working. I can even type boomer and command is not found. So I can do, let's do the install again. Fetching, building, installing, and it's installed. And I can do it again, boomer, and this time it works. Now we also have the update function. This is basically going to go into all of your installed packages. It's going to do git pull, and if the pull actually pulls in changes, then it will fully reinstall the package with the newest changes. If the pull returns that it's already up to date, then it will skip that package and move on to the next one. As for the help command, I'm pretty sure you know what this does. Pkgit-h does the same thing that I just did but again. Now you can also do pkgit-HQ and it will print the help message without the logo. So if you really need that extra screen real estate and you can't read all of the text, do pkgit-HQ. And then we also have the version number. This is, well, it's pretty obvious what it does, isn't it? pkgit-v will give you the version. And then finally, this check command. What do you think this does? This is weird. It just says run package checks. Let's do it. I'm not really sure what this one does. Unfortunately, due to budget issues, we could not afford a progress bar. Enjoy this instead. I'm very confused. Dependencies resolved. This does nothing? Well, I guess it does nothing. And with that, we have completely gone through all of the different pkgit commands. Now, let's finally go into the pkgit repo and learn a little bit about the bldit.lua. We have two different version variables, which are both, funny enough, outdated, and I need to change them. Pkgit 1.1.3 is coming soon, I guess. Bldit version, package version, these are essentially what version of pkgit do you need in order to install this, and what package version is this package. This will be exactly the same thing as the git tag that you use for this version of the package. Now we also have dependencies in here. You're probably familiar with these, so I'm not going to dwell on them too much, but it's exactly the same thing as you would have in a regular repositories table. In this case, we need luagit and git in order to install pkgit and actually use it. And then in targets, we have the same kind of situation as a normal targets table. Default does the regular compiling process, but this one is specifically catered to pkgit. And then the quiet does exactly the same thing, but quiet. And again, you could add your own custom targets in here like client and server, and this is where you would do it if you're a package maintainer. Root directory, bldit.lua. One more thing. First of all, you don't actually need this dependencies variable if there are no dependencies. You can just kind of delete this. And then if you have dependencies that are specific to specific targets, like a client target, for example, you have different dependencies for client and server. You can just add dependencies inside of this, just like so, right? So you can copy these guys into a specific target and then obviously indent them correctly because you're not stupid. There we go. And now we have a correct dependencies table specifically for this exact target. Again, this is incredibly useful if you're a developer of any given package. You can just define all of your dependencies for anything you need in this file. Very, very useful. I highly recommend that anyone who is maintaining a package does this little bldit.lua file. It really like puts all of your expectations for this package and its build process into one file. And with all of that being said, I think that's everything. This recording has turned into an hour and 20 minutes, so hopefully this is not the length of the video. But if you made it this far, obviously you enjoyed the video at least a little bit, and you might be interested in using pkgit. So I highly recommend, again, that you go into the git.simlinks.net/pkgit and install it, try it out, see how you like it. Give me some feedback if you want. Don't be too harsh though, please. Please be nice to me in the comments, okay? Please. If you have any suggestions or feature requests, go ahead and leave those in the comments too. And if you want to contribute to pkgit, or you just want to talk more in depth about how you're using pkgit and how to use pkgit, there is a beautiful little chat room in my Symlinks community called pkgit at muck.symlinks.net. You can go to this exact location and talk about pkgit, whether it is, submitting patches like some people are doing here, or talking about like questions that you have about pkgit, requests, issues, problems, whatever it is. You can put all of that information into this one chat room. If you're not sure about how to use xmpp, by the way, I have a video about that. Consider clicking that. Thanks for watching.